Hi, I'm Lindsey, and I'm talking with medtech industry leaders on how they change lives for a better world.
The inventions and technologies are fascinating, and so are the people who work with them.
There was a period of time where I realized fundamentally my job was to go hang out with really smart people that are saving lives and then do work that would help them save more lives.
I got into the business to save lives, and it is incredibly motivating to work with people who are in that same business, saving or improving lives.
What better industry than where I get to wake up every day and just save people's lives?
These are extraordinary people doing extraordinary work, and this is The Leading Difference. Hello, and welcome back to the Leading Difference podcast. I'm your host, Lindsey, and I'm so excited to introduce you to my guests today, Alex Ballatori and Shahrestani. They are the creators and innovators extraordinaire behind StrokeDX, and I'm so excited just to talk with them, find out more about the innovation, and see where they're going from here. So thank you all so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. We're really excited to be here.
Excellent. I'd love if you two wouldn't mind starting off by just sharing a little bit about yourself, your background, and let's stop there. Let's do that first.
Great. I'll go ahead. So I'm Alex. I'm originally from upstate New York, from Rochester. So very, very grateful to be in sunny Southern California at the moment now that we're entering the winter period. But I went to the University of Rochester, studied biology and chemistry, was really interested in medtech and medicine in general. And I wanted to take some time before deciding what type of graduate degree I was going to pursue, as well as learn a bit more about the startup ecosystem. So I ended up living in San Francisco for a few years, where I really got to see a lot with respect to medtech in general, predominantly in the orthopedic and the pediatric health space. And then I ended up choosing to go to medical school, where I met Shane. He's my first roommate in medical school. And we hit it off right away. This is our second business together. And I'm very passionate about stroke. Stroke has impacted my family numerous times. And when I saw this creative solution that Shane developed during his PhD, and also just given my long-lasting interest in medtech, it was a no-brainer to start this company with him. But I'll let him kind of take over from there, give him some background, and then we can dive into more about our story as a company.
Thanks, Alex. Yeah, so my name is Shahrestani. I grew up in sunny Southern California, very different from Rochester. And I was at UCLA for undergrad. I studied neuroscience, and then I did my MD, PhD, my MD at USC and my PhD at Caltech. And the way they designed that is you do 2 years of med school, you do the full PhD, and you come back and you finish med school. So in the first 2 years, I saw the effect that stroke had on patients. And when I went into my PhD, I wanted to develop technology that can solve that problem, namely having timely access to stroke care diagnosis so you receive faster treatment because time is brain. So that's where this idea came about. We pivoted this tech from the aerospace industry and developed this tech for stroke detection. And when it came time to spinning out of Caltech, there's no other partner that I wanted on this other than Alex. He's my best friend and also my first roommate, as he said. So it made sense to work together, and we work very well together. So since then, it's been an exciting journey since the end of 2020 when we spun out, and filled with highs and lows. And we're happy to be here today on this podcast. Thank you.
Yes, of course. Again, thank you all so much for being here. And it's just fun to hear how you guys got connected in the first place, and the fact that, this roommate, which could be so hit or miss, let's be honest. And it just turned into this fantastic friendship and now business partnership. So I love hearing those kinds of background stories. So, Alex, you mentioned having a personal connection to stroke, and perhaps Shane, you do as well. But I would love if you would share a little bit about your own experience and kind of what really motivated you all to tackle this issue and to try to make a difference in this arena.
Yeah, so it started really close to home with my grandfather, actually, as well as a couple other uncles and great uncles, unfortunately. And both my parents are clinicians by training. And so when I saw them and I saw the care that they received, my family was both my parents are very strong advocates for anyone in my family that became ill. And when I saw my family members go through stroke care, I saw that even if you have the best advocate at one of the best hospitals, there's still so many inefficiencies in the care that we can deliver. And then going to medical school and seeing it firsthand when we are now, I was functioning as the provider at that point. It's just so many issues. And despite all the advancements we've made from surgical technique and therapeutics, we haven't put a dent in stroke outcomes in multiple decades. So, when I first saw what this technology could do that Shane had developed at the price point that it can, and also at the safety level and in the amount of time that it can deliver this information, I saw all of those problems within my family and within my medical training that could be solved just with this simple, elegant, low-cost solution.
Yeah, that's incredible. And Shane, do you have anything to add to your own experience with stroke and what motivated you to develop this?
Yeah, of course. So I briefly touched upon the fact that when I went to the PhD, I already had some experience with stroke in terms of dealing with patients in medical school and really looking at the inefficiencies there. Why are we ordering so many CTs? There has to be a better way to monitor at the bedside. And why do we not have that, right? And now I work as a neurosurgery resident, and those problems still exist. So many patients every day have to be sent back to the scanner just because something changed about their exam, and we have no idea what happened until we send them down to this big, bulky, expensive machine that requires transport. It uses radiation, and there have to be better ways to solve these problems and provide the information at a point of care at an efficient cost to the patient in the hospital system.
Yeah, and so I would love if you both or one would share a little bit about the technology itself, kind of where you are in process with approvals and all that fun regulatory excitement, and just, what do you envision for your company as it grows?
So from a tech perspective, there are sensors that they use in aerospace to look for cracks in airplane wings. And we have methods for non-destructive detection. That's what they call it, non-destructive testing and detection, that we use every day in other fields. So what we did is we took this technology and we optimized it for the human body, specifically for the brain. And by doing so, you can create a non-invasive, handheld, small, cheap, portable, non-radiating technology that you can use anywhere to quickly assess objectively how the brain is doing in terms of its cerebrovascular health, right? And the idea is it works a lot like a metal detector, right? And in stroke, you can either have too much blood in a hemorrhage or too little in an ischemic stroke where you're literally stopping blood flow. And if you have a metal detector that's tuned for the human body and for blood, then you can quickly assess how is the blood flow changing and what are we going to do about it. So that's the technology, and I'll pass it over to Alex to talk about the rest.
Yeah, so absolutely. So given that this technology can differentiate, localize, as well as produce an image of where the lesion is, and in stroke, again, there's two types of stroke. You need to know what type of stroke they're having. And then once they have the stroke, can progress over time. So back in 2020 and 2021, when Shane was first validating this technology with an NIH-funded grant awarded to Caltech and the USC, we saw that it could provide all of that critical information in a very compact form and a very low-cost form. So once we published that information in Nature Scientific Reports, we went out and started the company. We went out and started to raise money. And one of the things that we knew is that our basis, the basic form of our technology, the common baseline principle of how it works, could impact the entire stroke continuum, right? So the stroke space has a lot of problems. So for example, 1 out of 6 stroke patients in an ambulance goes to the wrong hospital because we can't evaluate their brain. And often stroke patients are just found down, right? So as an EMS personnel, all you want to do is get them to the closest hospital. But unfortunately, not all hospitals can manage stroke patients. So 1 out of 6 times they're wrong, and that leads to hours in their delays in care. And like Shane said, time is brain. Every minute that passes, you lose 1 million neurons irreversibly. So that's the first problem. It's kind of like the EMS. Then in the emergency department, it still takes quite a while to rule in stroke because we rely on CT scans. And there's also just a whole slew of things that have to happen for a patient in that process of getting admitted to the hospital. So stroke on average takes over 2 hours to diagnose from the initial symptom onset. So that's kind of the pre-hospital, early hospital problem within stroke care. The other big problem in stroke care is we don't have any way of monitoring patients at the bedside with a disease that's rapidly progressing. And so currently, we just send patients back down to CT on average 4 times per admission. And so 80%, unfortunately, these repeat scans are negative. Nothing had changed in the brain, but we require objective information to manage these patients appropriately. So we keep sending them back. The other problem, and not to get too into the weeds with this, is that most stroke patients are above the age of 65. They are enrolled in Medicare. And the Medicare bundled payment system, ever since it came out, hospitals have been losing money across the board on stroke care. And a big contributing factor is our inability to monitor and image the brain in a timely manner. So that problem also goes into the neurorehab setting, where hospitals are now pressured to push patients into neurorehab where they're getting paid, per diem, and also can kind of close the DRG. So you can kind of look at the stroke continuum as two problems: the early hospital, pre-hospital, and then the inpatient inability to monitor this rapidly progressing disease. We have built an automated device for that second space, the inpatient and neurorehab space, which is an automated lightweight device that takes our sensor and has 2 mechanical arms that move it around the patient's head in a completely automated fashion, removing the human element to the path and the scanning path. And so what that enables us to do is it enables us to put this device, it sits right at the head of the bed. All you have to do as a user is set them up in it, which takes less than a minute. You press go on a tablet and it scans everything and tells you all the information that's happening right at the point of care. It also enables us to leave it on and monitor patients over time, which is going to be a game changer in inpatient stroke care, where currently it takes quite a while to get patients to CT. And again, 80% of the time, it was a negative scan. So it's a completely inefficient process that's actually, we estimate to be over a $6 billion inefficiency in the US alone. So we're first pursuing that. But not to say that we're not interested in the pre-hospital space. We still are very interested in pre-hospital stroke ruling. And so a lot of our dilutive first round of funding, which was just about a year ago, we came to our 1 year mark like 4 or 5 days ago, is spending a lot of time on improving our sensors capabilities, which we've improved about 3x from what it was back in 2021. So ultimately, we are pursuing the inpatient space first because there's a very clear problem for us to solve that we can solve. But it's not to say that we're not going to go for the outpatient space at a later date. We are still very actively pursuing it because our technology will be the one to solve that problem as well.
I love it. And I love how bold and confident y'all are in your ability to do this, because it's exciting to see that there are such amazing innovations and there's progress in this space. So thank you for doing the work to make that happen. I know that's going to impact so many people's lives. And also I want to say congratulations, because y'all are winning so many awards. I was looking at your LinkedIn pages and it was so fun to see, post after post. So tell me a little bit about some of your recent wins, if you'd love to share that. You've been part of the MedTech Innovator Accelerator cohort for a year-ish now. So just tell me about your experience and what you're celebrating.
Yeah, it's been an incredible process. MedTech Innovator is by far the most significant thing we have participated in since forming our company. The doors that were completely shut and locked and sealed that we could never potentially even knock on are now wide open because of MedTech Innovator. So yes, we've been participating for the past year, and it's been a wonderful experience. First, starting off at the pitch events at UCLA, where we pitched to the judges, where they narrowed it down they had about 1,200 early stage companies, I think a total of 1,900 applications in total. And after those pitch events, which there were 5, they narrowed it down to 61 companies total, and about, I think it was 40 early stage companies. So we enrolled in that program and got assigned to some incredible mentors, got to meet all of these amazing alumni that were either first-time founders or seasoned founders that have been through a lot. And we just had this complete access to this amazing network of people that we could talk to. And so, it started off with Wilson Sonsini, the Innovator Summit, and the Wilson Sonsini Medical Device Conference, where we were picked to be in the top 5 for the Vision Award, which was based on the criteria: would you invest in this company and would you want to work for them? And do you find them inspirational? So we made it into the top 5, which we were pretty surprised about, honestly, because it was a cohort-wide vote. And then we had 7 minutes to pitch, very similar to the finals, which I'll get to in a second. And we won that. And that was the first kind of wave of, just increased interest in us, a lot more visibility for us. and a lot of validation. Our 2022 was a very, very trying time for us, which we can talk about later. But anyways, that was the first big win for us. And then we participated in the cohort and got to know the MTI team and our mentors and go through the value proposition program. And it was so helpful for us in so many ways. And it culminated in us making it to the finals at the medtech conference, where it was a similar setup. We had about 7 minutes to pitch, try to explain all of the wonderful things about our technology in just a couple minutes. And after a crowd vote, we ended up winning. And so it was really special for us because in 2022, as young innovators, you get a lot of doubt, you get a lot of no's, you get a lot of people saying you're crazy. And so to win that was really special. And I want to give Shane a moment to say anything else with respect to that too. But it was just a really sweet moment for us after what we've been through.
100%. We were two young guys in medical school, no previous business experience, trying to spin out a medtech company while also being in medical school. And the number of times we got said no to, we completely lost track. So to be able to build back up and to make it to a point where we're actually the top startup in medtech in the world was, we didn't even believe it. And also, a couple other things. It was Alex and I just learned so much. It was awesome working together as a team over the last year and figuring out all these other problems that came up. And at the same time, at MedTech Innovator, we met so many other people going through similar problems as us. And there are so many amazing cohort companies that we got to meet who are going to change how medicine is provided in the US and globally. So it was an absolute pleasure to work with all of them and to work together to solve so many problems in MedTech Innovator. It's cool.
Yeah, that's incredible. I'm so glad that you guys had such a great experience with the cohort. And again, yeah, congratulations for winning the whole thing. That's fabulous. And I think it does speak to the innovation that y'all are bringing to the world and how important it is. And obviously, you're getting some really good external validation. I mean, the value that you're bringing, but it's always nice to have an outside person saying, yes, we agree. And to that point, I'm really curious about your 2022, because you kind of mentioned that was a little bit more trying. So if you'd be willing to speak to that, I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So like Shane mentioned, we were both full-time in medical school. We were in the hospital for, I don't even want to admit how many hours. I don't think I'm allowed to say how many hours. And, trying to form a pitch deck. And we're both heavy in science and research, and we know how to build a presentation typically for the scientific community, right? And so, and again, we're clinicians. Like one of the reasons why I mentioned before, I think before the recording, one of the reasons why we're so excited to come to this podcast is that this podcast is really about increasing and bringing technology to increase human health and improve human health. And one of the things that we were passionate about and still are very passionate about is that we want to bring this product to market because we know it's going to help a lot of people. But one of the things that we had to learn is that we needed to pitch a company, right? We needed to pitch a vision and a mission, which we had the vision and the mission. It's gotten much more refined, but that was I think our first learning curve, which we got to give a shout out to Helen McBride and Julie Schoenfeld from Caltech, as well as our lead investors at FreeFlow for helping us with that one. But it was tough. We were pitching during our lunch breaks and we were pitching on the weekends, and we had investors lined up. And then unfortunately, the day before the round of funding was supposed to come through, the markets went south and they said, hey, we're not investing right now. So sorry. And we were in a good amount of debt. And so it speaks to one of the most important things when starting a company is kind of faith in your mission and faith in your founder. And we were just looking at each other like, man, what are we going to do right now? Like we were still fully deep in school studying for our board exams, and we were in debt and we couldn't even build anything. And so, we kept going at it and we really believed in what we could do. And we ended up finding FreeFlow Ventures with David Fleck and Kevin Barrett, who believed in us and saw our vision, as well as the individuals at Caltech. And then we ended up finding quite a few other angel investors who are all directors of stroke centers, neuroradiologists, triple board certified neurologists, and experts in clinical trial neuro design. And they all believed in us. And so we got the money that we needed, and we've been sprinting ever since, which is why we've been able to accomplish so much in the last year. And, now looking back, Shane and I were just talking about this after we had won MedTech Innovator Finals. And we were like, 2022 was really tough, but it put us in a really good position because it forced us to study everything about the market, learn everything about our competitors, and really hone in on where are we going to bring this thing first, right? Because like I said before, there's an entire continuum of stroke care where the sensor could be applied, and we will apply it to all of those areas. But what did we want to do first, right? And so I think us having to go through that tough time is one of the reasons why we're so successful in such a short amount of time. So it was a tough time, but I think we're doing much better out of it now. We can, when you look back at it, we're grateful more than anything else. It's taught us a lot and definitely earned our stripes.
It sounds like it. Shane, do you have anything to add to that?
Pressure makes diamonds. I mean, we felt the pressure. We definitely felt the pressure. This is an understatement. But, we learned a lot, and we were able to thoughtfully revise our pitch decks, our business plans, our engineering plans with all the no's that we were getting and the feedback that we were getting underlying those no's. And that's how we were just able to learn and grow. And I think there's something to be said about being young and trying to run a business. I think a lot of people don't necessarily believe in you, especially when you're asking for millions of dollars. So we learned, and we, as Alex said, earned our stripes and proved ourselves, and that we were serious and we knew what we were doing.
Yeah. And what's so interesting is when I was looking at both of your LinkedIn profiles and just seeing, I kept thinking, do you guys sleep? Do you have time to sleep?
We're sponsored by caffeine. That's actually, so Shane and I, before we even started this, I don't know, Shane, how many papers we published together, and
30 something
at least, and so many conferences. And it was honestly like that, the number of nights where we consumed hundreds of milligrams of caffeine just working together is how we knew we were going to be great business partners. And so, again, StrokeDX is sponsored by caffeine.
Amazing. Can we get that official so that you actually don't have to pay for your coffee or whatever your caffeine of choice is? Incredible. So this journey from, and obviously you probably wouldn't consider it a complete pivot or anything, but this journey from clinician to entrepreneur and everything that entails, obviously, like you said, 2022 was this huge learning curve. What would be some advice that you might have now looking back and being able to say to somebody who might be in a similar situation, maybe what's one or two pieces of advice that you would say would be beneficial?
All right, a couple of things. One, find a co-founder that you trust with your life, who is your best friend, that you'd rather be awake drinking Monsters at 3 a.m. than being asleep. That's very important. Two, every time someone says no, that's an opportunity to learn and grow. And if you have the resilience and grit to keep your head up when you're being told no, and to learn from it and to keep going forward, it will always work out.
Yeah, it's literally exactly what I was going to say. Someone gave us a good piece of advice. They said, expect to receive 200 no's. And so when you get your 113th, you've just barely crossed the halfway mark. Just keep going, because you should expect 200, right? And that was something that you have to be a little crazy to do this. But also, I think in addition, like what Shane was saying, you need to have someone that when you hit a low, you know that you can trust the person next to you, and you just say, okay, let's learn from this. Let's refine our approach. Let's amend our deck and our plan, and let's keep going, right? And also, I think really taking the time to understand the market is really what you have, first of all, because this is before you even get to this point. You need to understand what you have, how it will be applied. And I think that was actually one of our biggest benefits, is that we work in medicine, and we understand clinical utility, clinical need, and as well as what we've learned that was very easy for us to learn because we were clinicians, is the whole payer system, right? And price points and pricing strategies. It's all kind of coming from a clinical side and seeing these products that I know how people use them. I've seen them I've used them. It just made it a lot easier for us. But ultimately it boils down to having a strong partner, and not taking things to heart when people tell you that you're crazy.
Yes, indeed. That reminds me, I remember one time somebody saying, when you hear no, it's very rarely no forever, never going to consider it, the end, close the door, slam it, unlock it. It's usually no, not right now. So if you can take that with a grain of salt, if you can take those no's with a grain of salt, eventually you'll get to either them changing their mind or somebody else saying, no, I agree with you. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, we got a lot of not nows. And I think it really boiled down to the fact that our first prototype was handheld. And so we were confident in our decision to go into the inpatient setting. And so now the pendulum has swung the other way. And now that we've validated that our automated device has worked in this translational project of automating this technology has been successful, all of those people that were the not nows are you raising money now questions, which is obviously a great feeling. But yeah, no, definitely we learned a lot. We'll also be frank, there were many times where they asked us questions that we studied for weeks afterwards and learned so much from. So all those not nows really they shaped us in such a positive way.
Yeah, I can imagine. Anything to add to that, Shane?
No, I totally agree. As Alex was saying, a lot of the previous no's are now reaching out to us. So tables turn for sure, but it just takes hard work, great resilience, got to keep your head up, keep fighting, and it works out.
Yeah. Excellent. Out of curiosity, going back to your childhoods, could you have possibly imagined where you are now back in the day? I mean, did you always have an interest in medicine? Is this something that sort of developed over time? Did you think you were going to be a business owner?
So ever since I was in 5th grade, I always loved the brain. I knew I wanted to do something related to the brain. And now I am working in neurosurgery, but my deep passion is medtech. That's what I wake up for every day. I look forward to working with Alex and our team and solving complex problems and creating new devices that can save brain, right? So I knew I'd be somewhere in this field, but I had no idea that I'd be able to work on a product so amazing that can really just change the paradigm in stroke care, which affects so many people every year. So I never thought I'd be a business owner. I knew I'd be in the brain somewhere, but this is super exciting.
Yeah, and for me, I grew up with two rock star parents. Both came from nothing, from farms in Italy, but both were very naturally gifted when it came to science and medicine. And so my parents actually met while my dad was completing his PhD at the University of Rochester, and my mom was finishing up her MD. And they both saw that they had Italian last names, and then the rest was history. And then I grew up in Rochester, New York, in clouds and snow for the first 22 years of my life. But I was whether it's nature or nurture, I was always very drawn to science and medicine. And both my parents actually were both entrepreneurs as well in the medical space. So my dad was a pioneer in lipid and bile metabolism in the liver, and developed a lot of enzymatic targets and did a lot of the early work in understanding bile reabsorption. And my mom is a surgeon with multiple devices under her belt, and actually is pursuing. It just got one of her products just got FDA cleared at the moment. They're launching right now. So I grew up in a very unique household where this was kind of dinner conversation, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to be in medtech. I knew I wanted some sort of degree in medicine. And so I took time off after I graduated, and I got a degree in biology and chemistry. And so I kind of went into my time off just trying to explore as much as possible. I got my hands on so many different startups. I also got to learn from kind of the bigger medtech corporate world, again, more in respect to the orthopedic world. And so I knew it was for me, but then I was deciding PhD or MD. And for me, I liked kind of the wide breadth of knowledge that you get from the MD, because there's so many problems in medicine that need to be solved. And one of the things that really sticks with me is that this whole definition of gold standard or standard of care, or this is the best that we got, that I just don't like accept fully. And maybe that's just kind of how I was raised or what, but I knew that I was going to, I wanted to go to medical school because I knew that there's so much more I could learn with respect to how we take care of patients that is so behind with respect to where it should be and can be, especially when you look at what's happening at some of these top universities like at Caltech and USC and at the lab or at the benchtop. So versus the PhD would have kind of pigeonholed me into one very specific area that I couldn't decide what I was super interested in. So to go back to your question, if you'd asked me 5 years ago if I would be doing exactly what I'm doing right now, no, there's no way. But given my background, given my experience with stroke, and then, working with Shane, it just really harmoniously kind of just worked out very well. And I'm really looking forward to the next few years and seeing where we can take this, and then the next one as well, and the next one after that. Shane and I have a very common one of the I keep saying we're crazy. We kind of are in many ways. Where when we finish something,
a little bit.
When we finish a task and we finish our to-do list, the next thing we say is not like, let's go grab lunch or grab dinner or something. It's, all right, what's next? What do we do next? Right. And so I know
I'll call Alex at 6, 7 p.m. and be like, Alex, I'm itching to do something. Just tell me something to do. What needs to be done? He's like, dude, you just worked a 14, 16-hour day. Why do you want more work? I don't know. It just feels wrong.
Yeah, I was like, Shane, go to sleep.
It's all that caffeine. You've got your system wired, ready to go.
Yeah.
Oh, my word.
It's definitely something.
Oh, that's incredible. Oh, my goodness. So, out of curiosity, are there any moments, or maybe one moment or whatnot, that kind of stand out to you? It could be through medical school. It doesn't necessarily have to be with StrokeDX, but just a moment that stands out to you as saying, yes, I know exactly why I'm here. This is it. It's reinforced for you. I am in the right place at the right time, doing the work that I really feel passionate about.
Yeah, I think there wasn't one specific moment, but more so a process over 2022 and being told no so many times. And then finally battling through debt, and thank you so much to our lawyers for being very flexible with us on that. But when we finally got the amount of investors that we needed and the amount of money that we needed, everything we were on fire. We were so ready, and we had such a strong plan. The moment the money came in, we were already starting to send it out the door to our engineers to start paying, and we started working that the same day that the money came in. We had a meeting with our engineers to start working. And I think just that transition point from going from trying to sell the mission to actually executing it was definitely a highlight for us. So I don't think there's one specific moment, but I think it was that kind of transition and seeing all of our incremental improvements in our sensor and seeing this device come to life. It's just been, I think it's almost the whole process has really just validated that this is where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah, I think to the families of people who had a stroke and explaining to them what a stroke is and the prognosis and what's going to happen to their loved one, and then seeing people unfortunately pass because of stroke, and maybe they live too far from a hospital and their life could have been saved if they came in a little bit sooner, or they didn't know that they were having a stroke and they tried to sleep it off and woke up and couldn't move half their body, right? And the stories go on and on. You see it in every permutation and every variation. But then at the end of the day, these are people and their loved ones are in the hospital with them, and you're trying to keep them alive when all our odds are against you. And it's a function of losing brain cells. And that is a function of time and efficiency, right? So a big why is just so much suffering, sadness, loss can be prevented by creating new technologies that can just make healthcare more efficient for people, right? Faster, cheaper, better diagnostics, better assessment tools, better ways to monitor. And, that's another reason why I think Alex and I, share that in common, and we just work tirelessly just to create new things to just change the paradigm, change the standard of care, make things better for people, because that's just where our heart and our passion lies.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very glad that you both did not let all the no's deter you. I'm glad you were willing to come back to your why and just keep at it. Yeah, that takes a lot of grit and determination, but glad y'all are doing what you're doing. So pivoting, just for fun, imagine that you were asked to teach a masterclass on anything that you want. you're going to be given $1 million for this. What would you choose to teach and why? It also doesn't have to be related to your industry at all, although it could be.
So my family and my just like family events and cooking and my Italian heritage is very important to me. And so when I'm not working, I'm cooking or I'm spending, I make wine for fun. It's all the traditions from my family. So I think if I had to teach a class, it would probably be, sharing some of my family recipes. And also I love to cook and host all the time. So I have had cooking classes at my house with friends, and every year I make wine. It's always a big event and I always have people over, and it's a really simple process. It seems so daunting, but it's quite simple, especially when you do it the old world way. And so, yeah, I guess that would probably be mine.
First of all, I would go to Alex's masterclass. I'd pay however much he charged. I'd be there. His wine is like the only wine I drink now. If I had to teach a masterclass, so there's two things about me that I don't even know if Alex knows. I can identify the Latin name for any insect, and also I can classify like any saltwater fish, like tropical fish. So somewhere between insect and tropical fish, just like you pointed out, I'll just tell you what it is.
No way. Get out of
Yeah,
here.
dude.
Yeah, we got to go to the Galapagos. We're going on a trip.
Dude, I'm ready. We'll be the new Charles Darwins.
Okay, so if I were to just take a random photo of a bug, I could just send it to you and you'd go, yeah, that's it.
100%. I can tell you like what order and like species that bug is.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Incredible.
We learn something new every day. I love it.
Just when you thought I couldn't be more nerdy, Alex.
No, so the reason why I'm laughing is because I used to be the exact same with any. You could show me any dinosaur skeleton, I knew I could do the exact same thing. I definitely can't anymore. I definitely cannot anymore.
That's so funny.
That's definitely just harsh parenting on like repeated flashcards. I'm sure there was some genuine interest there, but that's incredible.
Amazing. So I see how, some of your childhood interests or pastimes have led you to successful careers in medicine, because that amount of memorization must be daunting, but it clearly isn't because y'all have been doing it your whole life.
Yeah, it's been a journey. From insects to here,
Amazing. All right. On a slightly more serious note, how would you like to be remembered after you leave this world?
That's a great question. I had a mentor at UCSF that was in a very similar position to where I kind of see myself in kind of the later years of my career. And it's very difficult to be a clinician full-time and still spin technologies out, run kind of the business end of things. And he was someone that did it. He was someone that did both. And that's something that I also aspire at some point. And we had this conversation where you kind of have to view it as, do you want to be the person that takes care of the tree and you see the impact from your own hands on that one person? Or would you rather maintain the forest and drive things that can impact the entire forest? That's something that sticks with me always. And like I was mentioning before, just this whole concept of standard of care or gold standard or the best way to do something that I never really fully accept. So I think it's kind of not fully concrete, but I think continuing to spin out technology, that these amazing technologies that are stuck at the benchtop and through this kind of bureaucratic tech transfer process, I really see myself down the line and would like to be remembered by our ability to take these amazing technologies and not accept that things are just the way that they are, because they never are, right? We used to operate without gloves not that long ago and wondered why our infection rates were so high. So I think for me, just down the line, I'd love to be able to be remembered by bringing new technologies and not accepting that what we currently considered the best way to do it, the actual best way to do it.
Yeah, I think similarly, I think we all have family and friends that we love and we cherish. And I think everyone's biggest fear is losing someone that they care about. And I think we have one shot in life. And my personal mission statement is just to do whatever I can just to spread positivity, happiness, ways to maximize that love and keep people around, right? And I really think that medical devices and medicine and new technologies are the way to just create new solutions to problems that affect everyone or will affect everyone at some point in their lives. So it would be great to be remembered as innovators, someone who can create that device that saved my brother or my mom, you know? And I think that's also a big dream or aspiration that we work towards every day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And final question. What is one thing that makes you smile every time you see or think about it?
I mean, I love seeing a big table filled with food. Anytime, because it's my family. We used to get together every Friday, every Sunday, no exceptions. Everyone is there, 50 to 100 people. And so every time we open a table, and it's like I'm going back to upstate New York for Thanksgiving and for Christmas. And so every time I see there, I think about it. You know, we've all grown now, and we're all kind of all over the place. So we don't get together as much. So anytime I think about that's definitely my what makes me smile for sure.
Lately, I've been smiling looking at that big check we won at MedTech Innovator.
Me too.
Yeah. So we'll leave it there.
And our new device rendering also makes me smile. That
makes me smile a lot.
It's also both of our phones' screensavers, so we're smiling a lot.
I love it. That's fantastic. It's just motivation day in and day out. You just look at it and go, yeah, this is great. This is what we're doing.
Right,
oh,
exactly.
My word. That is absolutely incredible. And this has just been so much fun. I really appreciate you both joining me today and sharing more about your backgrounds and your passion and all of the really exciting innovation coming out of your companies. Again, thank you. Thank you for what you're doing for the world. It matters, and it's really cool to see you take the challenge and get past the no's to get to those yeses. So thanks.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for allowing us to share our story, and make sure you follow us as we are moving very quickly and starting to collect clinical data. And so it's a very exciting time to start following us. If you aren't already, now is the best time to start.
Yeah.
Yes. Appreciate you for having us today. It's been a pleasure chatting, and hopefully we do this again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are so honored to be making a donation on your behalf as a thank you for your time today to Sleep in Heavenly Peace, which provides beds for children who don't have any in the United States. So thank you for choosing that organization to support. And yeah, we just wish you continued success as you work to change lives for a better world.
Thank you so much.
Thanks again.
Of course. And thank you also to our listeners for tuning in. Please go follow StrokeDX. Like they said, they are moving quickly, and you will definitely want to be on top of that. And if you're feeling as inspired as I am, I'd love if you'd share this episode with a colleague or two, and we will catch you next time.
The Leading Difference is brought to you by Velentium. Velentium is a full-service CDMO with 100% in-house capability to design, develop, and manufacture medical devices from Class 2 wearables to Class 3 active implantable medical devices. Velentium specializes in active implantables, leads, programmers, and accessories across a wide range of indications, such as neuromodulation, deep brain stimulation, cardiac management, and diabetes management. Velentium's core competencies include electrical, firmware, and mechanical design, mobile apps, embedded cybersecurity, human factors and usability, automated test systems, systems engineering, and contract manufacturing. Velentium works with clients worldwide, from startups seeking funding to established Fortune 100 companies. Visit Velentium.com to explore your next step in medical device development.